What if the one thing you fear most doesn't actually exist? What if death, the final enemy, the ultimate termination, the end of everything you are, is nothing more than an illusion? 1,000 years ago, Ibn-Sina didn't just believe this. He proved it, using logic so precise, reasoning so flawless, that even modern neuroscience cannot refute his conclusions. Death is not real. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why. But first, let me acknowledge what you're probably thinking right now. Of course death is real. People die every day. Bodies stop functioning. Hearts stop beating. Brains stop working. How can any rational person claim that death is an illusion? This is exactly the question that Ibn-Sina, known in the West as Avicenna, set out to answer. But he approached it in a way that no philosopher before him had attempted. He applied the same rigorous scientific methodology that made him the greatest physician of his age to the question of consciousness and mortality. That Ibn-Sina was no ordinary mystic. He was the father of modern medicine, the author of the Canon of Medicine, a medical textbook so advanced that European universities used it for over 500 years. He understood anatomy, physiology, and the mechanics of bodily death better than anyone in his era. Yet this same man, this master of medical science, developed what he called the demonstration of the immortal soul, a logical proof so elegant that it has never been successfully refuted. His proof begins with a simple observation. You are conscious right now. You know that you exist. But what exactly is this you that knows? Ibn-Sina asked us to imagine a person who suddenly comes into existence, fully mature, but with no previous experience, what he called the floating man. This person has never seen their body, never used their senses, has no memories or external reference points. Yet Ibn-Sina argued this person would still know with absolute certainty that they exist. They would be aware of their own being, even without any physical sensations or bodily awareness. This thought experiment reveals something profound. Your sense of existence, your consciousness, your essential I-ness is completely independent of your body. You don't know that you exist because you have a body. You know you have a body because you exist. But Ibn-Sina went deeper. He distinguished between two fundamentally different types of existence. There is physical existence, the realm of bodies, organs, cells, molecules, atoms. This realm follows the laws of composition and decomposition, combination and separation, birth and death. Everything in the physical realm is compound, made up of parts, and therefore subject to dissolution. Then there is what Ibn-Sina called simple existence, the realm of consciousness itself. Consciousness is not made of parts. It cannot be divided, broken down, or separated into components. When you examine your own awareness, you don't find gears and mechanisms. You find something that is irreducibly simple, unified, and indivisible. Here's where his proof becomes unassailable. Anything that is truly simple cannot be destroyed. Destruction is always a process of separation, taking apart what was put together. But consciousness was never put together in the first place. It's not a combination of elements that can be uncombined. It's a fundamental unity that exists as an irreducible whole. Think about it logically. Your body is clearly compound, made of organs, tissues, cells, molecules. When the body dies, these components separate and return to the earth. But your consciousness, your pure awareness, your sense of I am, what components does it have? What parts could possibly separate? Ibn-Sina demonstrated that consciousness has no physical location, no spatial extension, no material composition. It's not made of brain tissue, though it may interact with the brain. It's not produced by neural activity, though it may coordinate with neural processes. Consciousness is categorically different from everything physical. It belongs to what? he called the realm of intelligible substances. This isn't mystical speculation. This is logical analysis. Modern neuroscience, for all its advances, has never located consciousness in the brain. They can find correlations, certain brain states that accompany certain conscious experiences. But correlation is not causation. No neuroscientist has ever explained how dead matter could produce living awareness, how unconscious particles could generate conscious experience. Ibn-Sina's proof anticipates this problem. He argued that consciousness cannot emerge from matter because effects cannot be greater than their causes. You cannot get something from nothing. If matter is fundamentally unconscious, then no arrangement of matter, no matter how complex, could produce consciousness. The conscious must come from the conscious, just as the living must come from the living. But here's where Ibn-Sina's medical knowledge becomes crucial. He understood that the body and consciousness interact in profound ways during physical life. Damage the brain, and you can affect memory, perception, personality, and behavior. This might seem to contradict his proof of consciousness as independent. From the body, Ibn-Sina resolved this apparent contradiction with stunning insight. He distinguished between consciousness itself and the particular ways consciousness manifests through a physical body. He used the analogy of light and colored glass. When white light passes through blue glass, it appears blue. Damage the glass, and you change how the light appears. But the light itself, its essential luminous nature, remains unchanged. Similarly, consciousness appears to be affected by brain damage because the physical apparatus through which consciousness expresses itself has been compromised. But consciousness itself, your essential awareness, your fundamental I am, remains as pure and indivisible as ever. This is why people who have near-death experiences often report expanded consciousness, greater clarity, and enhanced awareness, precisely when their brains are most compromised. If consciousness were produced by the brain trauma should reduce consciousness. Instead, many people report that consciousness becomes more vivid and expansive when freed from normal brain constraints. Ibn-Sina's proof also explains why consciousness feels continuous throughout your life, even though your body is constantly changing. Every cell in your body is replaced multiple times throughout your lifespan. You are literally not made of the same physical matter you were made of 7 years ago. Yet your consciousness feels like the same you who has been aware throughout. All these physical changes. If you were identical with your body, you should feel like a completely different person as your body changes. But you don't. The you that was conscious as a child is the same you that is conscious now, even though your childhood body has been entirely replaced. This continuity of consciousness through physical change is evidence that consciousness is not reducible to any physical substrate. But Ibn-Sina's most radical insight concerns what we call death. According to his analysis, what dies is not you. It's the temporary configuration through which you have been expressing yourself. The body dies, the brain stops functioning, the physical apparatus shuts down. But the consciousness that was, using this apparatus, the simple, indivisible awareness that you actually are, cannot be destroyed because it was never constructed in the first place. Death, therefore, is not the termination of consciousness, but the liberation of consciousness from a particular set of physical constraints. It's like taking off a costume that you've been wearing. The costume may be damaged or worn out, but you, the one who is wearing the costume, remain unchanged. This understanding transforms the entire meaning of death. Instead of being the ultimate enemy, death becomes a transition. Instead of being the end of everything, death is the end of limitation. Instead of being a catastrophe to be feared, death is a release to be understood. But Ibn-Sina was careful to note that this doesn't make physical life meaningless or unimportant. Your time in a physical body serves crucial purposes for consciousness. Through embodied existence, consciousness gains experiences, develops capacities, learns lessons, and grows in ways that wouldn't be possible in pure spirit form. Physical life is like attending a university for consciousness. You're not at university to stay forever. You're there to learn, grow, and eventually graduate. Death is graduation day. The education was valuable, but you don't want to remain stuck in school forever. This perspective also radically changes how you relate to aging, illness, and the prospect of your own death. When you understand that you are the deathless awareness that temporarily inhabits a physical form, you can care for your body without being enslaved by its limitations. You can appreciate physical life without being terrorized by its temporary. Nature. Ibn-Sina's proof also addresses one of the deepest questions about death. What happens to personal consciousness after bodily death? Some spiritual traditions suggest that individual consciousness dissolves back into universal consciousness, losing all personal identity. But Ibn-Sina's analysis suggests otherwise. Since consciousness is simple and indivisible, it cannot be broken apart or dissolved. Your individual consciousness, your particular way of being aware, your unique perspective, your personal continuity, these are aspects of consciousness that cannot be destroyed. They may be transformed, expanded, or purified, but they cannot be eliminated. This means that what survives death is not some impersonal, generic awareness, but you, the specific conscious being that you have always been, freed from the constraints of physical embodiment, but retaining your essential identity and continuity of experience. Modern physics actually supports aspects of Ibn Sina's conclusions. The principle of conservation of energy states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed from one form to another. If consciousness is a form of energy, and quantum physics suggests it might be, then consciousness, like energy, cannot be destroyed, but only transformed. Some contemporary neuroscientists and physicists are beginning to propose that consciousness might be a fundamental feature of reality, not an emergent property of complex matter. This panpsychist view aligns remarkably with Ibn Sina's analysis from 1,000 years ago. But you don't need to wait for science to catch up with philosophy. Ibn Sina's proof can be verified through your own direct experience. Right now, examine your own consciousness. Notice that it's simple, unified, and indivisible. Notice that it has no physical location or extension. Notice that it's categorically different from everything physical that you're conscious of. This simple, unified awareness that you are cannot be created by anything more complex than itself, and it cannot be destroyed by anything less fundamental than itself. Since nothing is more fundamental than consciousness itself, nothing can destroy it. The fear of death, according to Ibn Sina, is based on a case of mistaken identity. You fear the death of the body because you mistakenly believe you are the body. But you are the consciousness that inhabits and animates the body. When you realize what you actually are, the fear of death dissolves naturally. This doesn't mean you become careless with physical life. If anything, understanding your true nature as deathless consciousness makes you more appreciative of the gift of embodiment, more compassionate toward others who are also expressions of consciousness, more motivated to use your physical life for the highest purposes. Ibn Sina's proof is not just intellectual knowledge, it's liberating wisdom. When you truly understand that death is an illusion, you begin to live with the freedom that comes from knowing your essential nature is indestructible. You can take risks in service of love, truth, and beauty because you know that nothing essential can be lost. You can face the inevitable death of your body with curiosity rather than terror because you understand that death is not happening to you. It's happening to the temporary vehicle through which you have been expressing yourself. You are the driver, not the car. When the car breaks down, you don't cease to exist. The ultimate message of Ibn Sina's proof is this: You have never been born, and you will never die. Birth was the beginning of your physical expression, not the beginning of your existence. Death will be the end of your physical expression, not the end of your being. What you are is the eternal consciousness that temporarily dances through physical form, but is never limited by that form dot. This is not a matter of belief or faith. This is a matter of logical demonstration and direct recognition. You can know this truth with the same certainty that you know you exist. And when you know it, really know it, not just as an idea, but as lived understanding, the fear that is haunted humanity since the beginning of time simply evaporates. Death is an illusion. You are deathless consciousness itself. This is not hope. This is fact. Not belief, but knowledge. Not faith, but proof. Ibn-Sina demonstrated it 1,000 years ago. Modern science is beginning to confirm it. And you can verify it right now. By simply recognizing the nature of your own consciousness, the one thing you fear most doesn't actually exist. And now you understand why.